Hi guys, my name is Kendra and I'm here with J. Marie Skin Studio. I am a licensed esthetician and I am certified in brow lamination, which I will be showing you here today. So brow lamination is great for anyone who is wanting a fuller look in their brows, wanting to control some of those out of control brow hairs, maybe some that go down or they're curly, some people's go straight up. So this just allows you to control the direction they're going and to fill in any sparse areas that we all have throughout our brows in certain areas and give you more of a defined symmetrical look. So the first step of brow lamination is going to be to give yourself a clean palette. So usually with the kits you get, there is a brow shampoo in there. You can use that or you can just use simple witch hazel, which is what I prefer. So we are just going to swipe across here, get all the makeup off, debris. Just want to make sure we have clean lashes so that the solution can apply. And she already has wonderful brows, as you can see, so that does make my job a little bit easier. But even people that have like scars in their eyes or the sparseness, this is a great option for them because you can go in and fill those in. People who don't have a lot of hair, it does make this a little harder for them. However, you can still go back in and tint at the end. So they can still do it, they just might not get quite a filled in look there. So the first step in the brow lamination process is going to be to apply the bonder. The bonder is going to allow us to straighten those hairs to get them in place where we want them to be. Most of the bonders do come in a tube like this. Some come in a packet. You just need to make sure that you are following your sanitation guidelines, not double dipping. We never really use the same spoolie, so always make sure that you have either Q-tips or a micro swab or a lick stick wand, anything that you can dip in one time, apply, and then get a new one. So I'm just going to start applying this to the hair to get it where I want it. You do want to take your time with this, get every hair exactly in place. And you do have to use a little bit of force to get some of those hairs to stand where you want them. People with thinner brow hair, of course, will be easier to direct. During this phase of it, you can see that I am just straightening more towards the head and then starting to go at a little more of an angle as I go through the brow hairs. This is something you'll definitely want to talk to your client about though. Some people do want those hairs to go straight up while others want more of that angled look. And I always try to remind my clients that this is going to relax over time. So if they'll let me, I'll of course give them bigger brows by going more straight up, but totally up to them and what they want to do. The nice part about this is it gives you full control to put those brow hairs where you want. I like to work in sections as well because once you have this on, it does get a little difficult to move it around. It really does glue the hair flat. So you might want to use just a bristle brush to kind of brush them into place. I also sometimes go in with a tweezer just to get them perfectly in place. So this brow is almost set at this point. I'm just going to go in and make a few small adjustments. You really want all this hair to be as flat as possible to the skin. And while she had really awesome brows to start with, you might notice we have some kind of just rogue hairs here and about. Don't worry about those until the very end. So after we've done this lifting process, that's when you can go in, you can tint if you want. You can also go in and wax and tweeze and really clean it up. But you do want to do that after the perming process. If you also get any hairs in place that you're not happy with, you can always go in with saline solution, just maybe with like a little Q-tip, and that'll loosen up that glue. And you don't want to apply water. That is one thing I actually ended up taking 2 classes on to figure out. The water will actually take away from the perming solution and will loosen that bond that you have on there. So saline solution is the best option. If you don't have that, you can resort to distilled water. You don't want to use tap water. And at that point, just use very little as you can, and then you'll have to go back in and set the brow. So we'll go ahead and move over to the other side here. And we are just still going in with that bonder. Some people also call this their lash or brow glue. It's the same thing, it's just holding those hairs in place. So with the bonder, you don't have to worry about time or anything. Take your time getting those hairs as straight as you can and where you want them. And then once we move forward with the actual perming solution and the neutralizer, those do have set times, which I will talk about when we get to them. But this one, take your time, get those hairs right where you want them to be. So with brow lamination, regarding contraindications, the only thing you want to be aware of is if someone has any open wounds or sores around their brow. Then you would definitely want to avoid that, as this is a chemical product that we're putting on the brow. So just be cautious of that, and be cautious of anyone with sensitive skin. Just be sure you're checking in with them. If you see any redness, there shouldn't really be redness. You shouldn't be scraping too hard on the brow. So just double check, make sure they're not feeling any stinging, tingling, but otherwise, almost anyone should be able to get this done. Okay, perfect. So now I have the brow hairs just where I want them. So we are going to move forward with the second step in the process. So one thing I really love about almost all the kits that I've played around with brow lamination and the different classes I've taken, they all have the packets labeled just 1, 2, 3, really simple. But what is important is you do need to check the time that the manufacturer recommends. That is all different. So you just want to make sure you're not over perming the hair. So make sure you read your manufacturer's guidelines and stick to those. And then you want to massage the packet a little bit, just get everything moving around in there. Okay, so you can definitely smell that perm smell, which is what makes us all think of the old salons and ladies in there with their curlers in. So you might want to tell your client they're going to smell this, because they can. But one thing that is a big difference between this perming solution and the hair solution is the main ingredient in hair solution that you have to wash off with water. That ingredient is not in the brow lamination. So that's why we're not using water throughout. So you can be ensured that even though you're not using water, you're not going to over perm that hair as long as you're sticking to the time constraints. So this doesn't take a whole lot of solution, but this is the actual perm and lifting solution. So all you're going to do is you're going to go on here and apply it, really emphasizing the base of the hair. I don't actually apply it to the tops because that's where the hair is most fragile. And the part that's controlling where the hair goes is the base of it. So just make sure you're really getting that in there. This is why, too, it's important to take a class and get certified from a DPOS certified school, because you need to know all these little things, like don't apply it to the top of the hair. Oh, she has thicker hair. Can I let it sit a little longer? Things with thinner hair. So it is really important to take those classes so you know that. And also legally, your state might require it, as Colorado does. You might notice over here, these ones aren't 100% straight. So I'm gonna go in here and straighten those just a little bit before we let this sit. So at this point, as I said, she has a couple of hairs over here that I'm not quite happy with. So I just wanna go in, and I'm gonna go in just with a micro swab here and just straighten those out. You might as well get it perfect while you have the chance, because this is actually going to straighten and perm that hair. So get them right where you want them. If I have hairs that are really fighting me, I'll go in with a tweezers, just being very cautious not to scrape their skin. Okay, you can see these hairs are a little curlier, so they want to curl down. So they're definitely gonna fight. And I will show you one other little trick too you can do to get those to straighten out. Okay, so I'm gonna go in with that perming solution just on that one spot again. And I am gonna get it a little on those hairs there. And I'm just gonna clean that up because I don't want a ton of solution elsewhere on her skin. Okay, so now that we have the perming solution on, we're gonna let that sit for 5 minutes. That is your average time frame. However, again, make sure to read your manufacturer's guidelines. Sometimes they'll have you go up to 7, that's usually the max, as low as down to 3 if someone has some thinner hair. So I did have some hairs that were fighting me over here. So one trick you can do is you can get a piece of saran wrap, and this is not required, but sometimes I do like it if the hairs, again, aren't doing quite what I want them to do. So we can just place this over the brows. Perfect. And then if they're fighting you, you can just go in with your spoolie and kind of force them where you want them to go. You can also, again, use a tweezer at this point. Just depends which tool you like. I go back and forth depending on the hair and what I need. But we'll let this sit for 5 minutes, and then we will remove the saran wrap and we will go on to step 2. Awesome, so now that this is set for 5 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and take the saran wrap off. And then you just wanna make sure to have a clean Q-tip. You can use a lip wand, whatever you want to wipe that solution away. And again, if you have anywhere giving you trouble, the best option is gonna be saline solution. So as you can see, these guys are still fighting me just a little bit over here. So I'm just gonna wanna make sure that they're perfectly in place before you putting the neutralizer on. And that's going to relax the perm and stop the perming process. So again, that's why we don't have to use water. I am going to go in with just a little bit of saline solution on the outer edges. I don't want this sitting on her skin or anything, so just want to get that cleaned up. And you can see it rolls it off almost right away. So step 2, it's going to be the neutralizer. Again, that'll stop the solution from perming. Just give it a quick little massage. And then you can apply this with a lipstick wand. That's definitely my preferred method. A Q-tip is fine as well, a micro swab, whatever you prefer. And this guy smells much better than the perming solution. And you just want to make sure that you get him everywhere that that perm was. And it doesn't take a whole lot. So over on this side, you can see these hairs over here are still fighting me just a little bit, but actually that just straightened them out really well. I am, however, still going to go in with either a tweezer or a micro swab and just really get those hairs where I want them. This is kind of this is the very last step to fix anything you want. Also important, you want to make sure you're using a clean, whether it be a micro swab, whether it be a Q-tip, you want to make sure it's clean every time. You never want to go back and reuse it because the ones you've used have the perming solution on there. So if we re-put that on the skin or on the hair, it's just going to continue to perm. But one thing you can do, as I was saying over here, they're just being a little difficult. You can just go in and try to force those right where we want those. You can also, to get a nice clean look, go along the edge of the brow and kind of curl those hairs. And then this is going to sit again for 5 minutes. If you have a client who is feeling claustrophobic or anything, one thing I learned too is you can always put just a towel over their eyes or over their brows. Some people also cover the eyes, so they'll do a butterfly. And just to make sure the fumes aren't getting close to their eyes or anything like that, just to help them relax, you can do any of that to make it a more relaxing process for them. So again, I'm gonna put on saran wrap. It's not required. I like to do it to just kind of press down the hairs. Totally your call. But I do like it because I feel like then I can go in and just kind of move a few things. Is everything feeling okay? No tingling, stinging, anything? Okay, perfect. So we'll just let that sit for 5 minutes now. Okay, so now that this has set for 5 minutes, I'm going to remove the saran wrap. You can see we already have that brow looking on fleek. So since I can see some glue around the bonder around the brows here, I am gonna go around with the saline solution and just wipe that off so she's not leaving with it here today. And we do still have to go in and wipe off the neutralizer. So I will do that now. But again, this is just a dry wand here. I'm also, since the bonder is pretty thick on her brows, this is just dependent on the client. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the saline solution on there, but you don't have to do that. Otherwise, you can just leave it. And at this point too, if you saw any crazy hairs that didn't do something you wanted to do, this saline will help break it up a little bit, but they're definitely gonna be straightened into the position you've put them in. But this will at least help relax it just a tid. Awesome. So last step number 3, we're gonna go in with that lash conditioner. So this just has some keratin in it, some oils, that'll just help really hydrate those brow hairs. So again, using a clean lipstick wand, I'm gonna go in and apply this all over the brow. And you can really lather this on. This isn't gonna hurt anything. It's just gonna hydrate them, give them some protein, some food, keep them nice and healthy. So I'm gonna go in and just kind of move the hair in this little spot over here, get those right where I want them. Because after this, she is not going to touch her brows for 24 hours. She's not gonna get them wet. She's not gonna do anything to them. So I wanna make sure all these hairs are right where I want them. And this is where you can go in with a tweezer and move them just perfectly. And my client had a great question. She was just asking me, how long does this last? So normally, on average, brow lamination can last up to 2 months. That's if you're taking really good care of them, you're brushing them up every day, which it is smart to send your client away with just a spoolie. And then you can also sell them or send them away with a brow conditioner or hair conditioner. So that's really good. Let them use that every day. African castor oil is also really great. Anything to keep them hydrated. But if they have a more active lifestyle, if they're swimming a lot, if they do hot yoga, anything like that, they probably will see those fall quicker. I'd say on average, I see them last about 4 to 6 weeks. And so at this point, we have the conditioner on. Normally when I do this, I do have clients request to also do a brow tint and a brow wax. So it's really awesome to put that as a package and give them a little discount. Most of them will opt in for that then. And so you also want to make sure if you are going to do a tint or wax, you want to do that after you've done this. So you could go in, clean up those hairs, as I was saying earlier. You can tint. Be gentle with the water on the tint if you do use water. Otherwise, I would definitely stick to the saline solution and always use distilled water if you must. So just give them a once over, check it out. If you see anything you kind of want to just straighten out, you certainly can. And that's where I like to go in with the tweezer here at the end. And again, if anything is too tight in there and you want to move it, just go in with that saline solution. But I think this all looks good and she will be good to go. And we are all done here today. So the client is going to leave with nice glossy brows, totally normal. Let that conditioner soak in, tell them not to touch them, let their brows be fabulous. And then once they do shower or get them wet in 24 hours, I usually recommend they use a gentle cleanser for at least the first 48, 72, at least around those brows. We really want to let that set in there. And then anytime they get them wet, I just tell them to brush them back up and they'll stay in that place. So what you can do is if they want them to flatten out a little bit, they can definitely do that with a spoolie or they can brush them up. It's also really great to tell them to get a brow gel. That'll help them stay in place as well. So a brow gel, brow conditioner, and the little spoolie are great options that you can send them home with. So thank you guys so much for watching brow lamination. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Do remember, it's always smart to protect yourself, protect your client, protect your business. Make sure that you have the right training, make sure you're following the rules and regulations, and then make sure that you're insured as well. So you can check out ASCP for your needs on that. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much.